Aloha, my beautiful friends. Welcome to the Mermaid Chronicles. Today I'm going to talk to you about one of my favorite subjects, which is Jungian astrology and relationships. And of course, Jungian astrology, Jungian psychology is always about the relationship to the self and other, because everything is a mirror of everything else. And this is inspired by a book called Secrets of Love and Partnership by Hazo Banzoff and Brigitte Teller. So I'll have all the information on my blog, which is listed below. Anyway, so I'm going to be reading my notes. That's why I'm looking to the side. It just helps me to keep everything clear because I have a lot of information I'm going to go over today. So bear with me. We humans strive for wholeness in our life. And one of the ways that we seek or that we try to find this wholeness is through relationship. And relationship often shows up as a conflict with our opposite self, because the other, the partner, is often our opposite. So this wholeness that we seek is not just about developing the conscious personality, but also of developing our unconscious parts, our inner opposite, which the great Swiss psychologist and astrologer Carl Jung called the Anima and the Animus. Okay, these are aspects of our unconscious self. So the Anima is the feminine in a man. The Anima is a man's inner feminine. And the Animus is the inner masculine in a female. All humans have an inner feminine and inner masculine. And these, of course, are the first things that we meet when we do the etheric healing process called holodynamics. We meet our higher self, our inner masculine, inner feminine, and all of our other soul fragments that are all there inside of us at higher and deeper levels. They're beyond the physical body. So Jungian astrology looks at the alchemical effects of relationships, because relationships are alchemy. Jung said that relationships are always alchemical. The meeting of two personalities is like the contact of two chemical substances. If there is any reaction, both of them are transformed. And alchemy seeks to transform our baser self to our higher self, because alchemy is transforming lead into gold. And symbolically speaking, that's what we're doing on the spiritual path. We're always attempting to transform our baser self to its higher counterpoint. Now, this book explains how this all happens. So first we need to talk about the elements, okay? Not elementals, but elements, okay? So all creatures contain 4 elements. Actually, in Ayurveda there's 5, but we won't complicate things with 5. We're just going to deal with astrological lore, which talks about 4, okay? So all of the signs astrologically are characterized by the 4 elements. And they also correspond to the 4 medieval humors, which you may have heard of. Fire is choleric in our body, earth is melancholic, air is sanguine, and water is phlegmatic. So as humans, we don't have all 4 elements to an equal degree. Here's the key. We have all 4 elements, but not to an equal degree. And as long as even one element remains unconscious or weak in us, or lacking in our consciousness, we perceive reality in a distorted manner. Okay, so this is all Jungian psychology I'm going into. So on the path to becoming whole, we need to know which aspects are lacking in us, which ones need attention. Jung said that each person initially develops 3 of the basic elements to a greater or lesser degree, and the 4th is generally neglected and remains largely unconscious. In fairy tales, the search for this missing element becomes the treasure that we have to dig up. So the power that guides us in this search is the soul's yearning for wholeness. The soul longs to be whole. And relationships are where we often seek this missing element. Now, of course, spiritually speaking, we can find this missing element in the divine through meditation, but for the purpose of this video, we're talking about earthly relationships, okay? So we can tell what element we're missing based on our relationship encounters. we tend to naturally look for a partner who complements us by living what we have remained unconscious of, that which we have perhaps suppressed. And that which we suppress in ourselves and shove into the subconscious mind is known as the shadow. For example, we all have a shadow. We all have a lot of content in our shadow, and a very big part, what I think is the most important part of doing spiritual work, is embracing and coming in contact with our shadow. For example, if we were taught as children that it's bad to be needy or emotional, we may suppress our neediness into our subconscious. We just repress it. When we repress things, we're not even conscious that they're there, because we have to do that, in this case, as children to survive. So we may pretend that we don't have neediness. It doesn't exist because it's repressed in our subconscious mind. So we put on the mask or persona of a non-needy person. I'm just giving an example, okay? There could be many things we suppress in the shadow: anger, rage, sexuality, any number of things. So once this quality is repressed, we don't even know it's there. And then our shadow haunts us in many destructive ways. It can show up as addiction, destructive impulses, and most famously, it shows up as projection on other people, especially in relationship. We may hate people, for example, who have that neediness because it resonates with our own repressed neediness. This is the key to shadow work. So if we want to know what our missing element is, we just need to look at the partners that we are attracted to, because they have what we're lacking. The truth is that we're much more attracted to our opposite than to someone with the same element, because that's just not exciting. It's just not fulfilling to us, right? And of course, in Vedic or Indian astrology, which I really love, as well as Western astrology, Vedic astrology loves opposites and squares, which Western astrology doesn't love so much. But in any case, opposites do complement and complete each other. So the horoscope is a good place to look for our missing element. Before we go into the horoscope, I'm just going to discuss the elements a little bit. I think it's really important to have a general understanding of them. So this is very simplistic, but I just want to give you a general idea. So fire is a masculine element. It represents spirit, inspiration, optimism, intuition, attention, power, passion, visions, envisioning, challenges, fantasy. So fire people ignite easily, but they don't have staying power. Fire doesn't like routine because he needs freedom, he needs newness, he needs change. Fire is a visionary. He lives in the realm of spirit and inspiration. He lives in the realm of imagination and higher knowledge. And the opposite of fire is actually earth. So if we lack fire, we'll be thrilled to be with this person who brings us momentum, excitement, charisma, vision, confidence, courage, intensity, and riskiness. Now, earth is a feminine element. And when I say it's masculine or feminine, I'm speaking astrologically, okay? Earth is realistic, factual. It's structure. It loves order, routine. Earth is slow, deliberate, calm. And what counts to Earth is what's in her pocket, what she can take home with her. Earth is the keeper of tradition and what is familiar. She can be very stubborn, inflexible, and can cling to money, possessions, reality, and lack inspiration or fiery visionary strength, which is why Earth is attracted to fire, of course. Air is a masculine element. Air is the intellectual who lives in the world of theories, thoughts, and abstractions. He is very verbose and expressive. He loves change, freedom, independence, to fly from here to there. He can be very distant and cool. His mind is brilliant, fast, creative, informative, and he makes connections, thinks in terms of analysis and synthesis, but he may avoid commitment and depth or emotional involvement. He can be very nervous, fragmented, and he may get lost in his own mental constructs and theories. Now, the opposite of air is water. Water is a feminine element. It is very purifying. Water is emotion, feeling. The watery person is very receptive, empathic, feeling, nurturing, emotional, sensitive, tender, deeply open to all of the vibrations around her, feeling everything and everyone around her. Water has a very hard time developing her own identity and boundaries from others because she absorbs everyone else's energy. She's just like a sponge who absorbs all the watery feelings around her. She's caring, she's willing to help others, and she's very therapeutic. She lives in the rich world of images, imagination, and soul, heart. Water lets our feelings come out and be swept away. Water touches our heart and soul because she's very intuitive. She's the soul doctor who can listen to others and be very deeply understanding. She is also the poet, the artist, the writer, the actress, the teller of fairy tales. And water's really not so daring. It is more shy and inward. She may retreat sometimes into a fantasy world. Water is deeper than other elements, and it goes to the depth of feeling. Her feelings are easily hurt. She, of course, values earth, who gives her structure. She finds air to be too superficial, cold, and maybe hostile. And she might even become harsh, like ice, to protect herself around air. However, water and air together in one chart makes a great artist and teacher. So, Jung said that our strengths never lie in our missing element. This is actually our weak spot. This is our vulnerable spot. This is where we get hurt. This is our Achilles heel. So it's good to have someone protect this weak spot. We need a lot of faith before we can entrust our vulnerability to another person. So when we fall in love, we are happy that we found someone who has the element that we lack. However, of course we know that the thing we love so much about the other person is what drives us crazy after time. So if we lack fire in ourselves, of course we're thrilled with a fiery person who brings us momentum and optimism and excitement and confidence and charisma. But after a while, fire can appear to be a little bit egotistical and want all the applause. If we lack earth, we might be enchanted by someone who's a refuge of peace, composure, stability, and trust, someone who's dependable. But after a while, earth may seem a little boring, tedious, a little bit rational, a little unimaginative, a little stubborn. If we lack air, we'll be inspired by someone intelligent, who's read a lot, who can analyze deeply, who's informative and has great ideas, can talk about everything. But after a while, we kind of get tired of this person who just seems to go on and on talking and who seems to be a little bit of icy, heartless, calculating, maybe non-committal. If we lack water, we're really intoxicated and enchanted by this deep person with devotion and sensitivity who understands us, lets us feel our souls, affectionate, close, caring, intuitive. If water is our weakness, we lack depth in our soul. We don't have an antenna working. It's like we're too dry for anything to penetrate our heart or make it resonate. We seem to have a hard time with anything irrational, with the world of feelings and the image world of the soul. So water opens us up to worlds that weren't imaginable. It sees deeply into us. It understands the soul. But after a while, we see that water's so caught in emotions that she can't even help herself. That deep ocean turns into a black hole of too much emotion. It's like an ocean. And her imagination tends to run away with her, and she becomes overwhelmed by how ungrounded she is, how she can even become demanding and caught in so many emotional entanglements. So, that's a little bit of a portrait of the elements. So, the answer now is neither to just avoid the person that we're enchanted with and be totally self-sufficient because we won't learn, nor is it to become symbiotic and let the other person be that element for us. So, according to Jungian psychology, the answer to the situation is to simply learn from the other person, to let ourselves gradually absorb some of that element that we're missing, to sort of take our projections back. We have to admit our weaknesses to ourselves and to our partner and try to work on that missing element. So, alchemy is the art of transmuting an element to its higher octave. And I see us humans as alchemical beings who are always striving to become our higher self. We're always trying to come in contact with our higher self, because I will go into it in future videos, but our full potential self exists at a higher level, in higher planes. And it's always speaking to us, but we are just simply not aligned with it. So the goal of our spiritual work is to align ourself with our higher self. Okay? So alchemists were aware of the secret of this higher development and the constant interplay of something that we're going to go into now called dissolving and bonding. I know I'm covering a lot in this video. So dissolving and binding is an alchemical process that occurs between polarities of forces. So everything in life is a polarity. We are polarities, our relationships are polarities, life is a polarity. In every relationship, there's always a binder and a dissolver. Now, classically speaking, the female is the binder. She wants binding, togetherness, union, closeness, and usually, classically, the masculine is the dissolver, who wants space, freedom, and to dissolve the binding. Of course, in any case, of course, the female can be the masculine and the male can be the feminine. So I don't mean to pigeonhole gender roles. So in any case, harmony is achieved with a balance of the two, dissolving and binding, in this beautiful flow like a dance, both giving the other a little, being conscious of their energy and balancing. But if the dissolver tries to dissolve and separate, the binder is going to try to bind closer, and this can create a state of disharmony and alarm and shock. So it's all about creating balance, with both parties owning their shadow qualities and projection. Okay, this is really key. Jung said that it's the nature of the unconscious mind to always behave in a manner that's compensatory, balancing in relationship to our conscious mind. Okay, now we're just talking about a balance in ourself. So we have our conscious mind and our unconscious mind, and they're always trying to balance each other in ourself. The key to this is where there is light, there is shadow. So if we only try to be in our light and avoid our shadow will rebel. And the unconscious mind forms the dark opposite pole to the light of the self. The unconscious mind contains different elements or archetypes. Archetypes like the hero, the dragon, the virgin, the actor. There's so many different archetypes that we embody or that we contain or have active and inactive in our unconscious mind. So two of these very important archetypes are the Anima and the Animus, which we mentioned at the beginning, the inner feminine and the inner masculine. And we may project these qualities onto our partner. This is really key, so try to bear with me. For example, a man may speak very much of wanting freedom, wanting independence, but his inner feminine or inner anima may want love and connection as much as he wants freedom. But instead of owning his inner anima, owning means I acknowledge it, I embrace it, I love it, I see it, it's there. So instead of owning his inner feminine, he may project it to the outer woman and say, she wants closeness, she wants this, she's suffocating me, when it's really his own inner feminine that he's simply projecting onto his real life partner. And of course the Anima and Animus is the inner beloved, because we're attracted to an outer lover who is resonant with our inner beloved. So when we project our inner beloved to the outer person, sometimes the projection cracks and we can't hold up the image. So the bottom line is the outer beloved is never going to be as perfect as our inner beloved. All soul images have a polarized nature, meaning that they have a light and a dark side to them. So for example, let's say we think that an angel has entered our life, someone who's marvelously light. What we might do is we might transfer our own light onto them via projection. So projection is not only projecting your dark or negative shadow, but you can project your light on someone else too. That's what happens when you fall in love. You fall in love with the projection of your own beloved qualities. So in any case, let's say we have this angel in our life and we transfer our light onto that person via projection. this will quickly turn into its opposite, because when we feel that it's that perfect and that light, seeing them as the perfect divine being, and we overlook their true nature, it doesn't take long before the angel becomes our demon. And then we become very disappointed that this person is not the angel we thought that they were. So it's all about discriminating, being really conscious, bringing the unconscious mind to the conscious, owning our shadow, owning our projections. This is the key in relationship, is taking back your projections, whether it's light or darkness. So we have to get to know our inner beloved, our inner anima and animus, which, like I said, you do that in etheric healing. You can get to know your higher self. I'll do a video on it one day. I do sessions on it privately, but I'll do a video on it one day. In intimate and constant confrontation with the other sex and relationship, we have the opportunity to become totally aware of our unconscious opposite sexuality, and we can comprehend these inner parts as forces that ultimately we hope will lead us to wholeness. Now, here's where it gets kind of interesting and exciting, okay? This inner beloved, the inner masculine and feminine, is composed of a 4-part structure like the 4 elements. Okay, so the goal is to be whole in all 4 elements. So seen in astrological terms, the element that we lack is the one that has little or no planets in our horoscope. If you're not familiar with astrology, we are not just a sign. I'm not just a Cancer. We have many signs. We have many planets that are in many signs at the time that we're born. Okay, so our chart is very complex with many different planets. Okay, so for example, if our chart has all fire, air, and water signs, we may be missing the earth element. And in that case, it's known that we might prefer to link ourselves with a person who embodies this missing element to compensate and complement us. And so we have this inner imprint of what our beloved should look like. And this inner imprint we can also see with astrology as well. Okay, so we just talked about this missing element. So we have 2 things. We have the missing element in our chart, and we have our inner feminine and masculine. Okay, these are 2 different things. So for a female, the animus or inner masculine is represented by the 2 planets of Sun and Mars. Okay, so for a female, her inner masculine is going to be where her Sun and her Mars is. For a male, the anima or inner feminine is represented by his Moon and Venus. For example, my Mars is in Leo and my Sun is in Cancer. So my inner ideal masculine is Cancer and Leo, or water and fire. However, for me personally, you probably can guess, my chart lacks earth. I have a lot of fire, a lot of air, a lot of water, and I don't really have a lot of earth going on because I'm always out in the ethereal realms flying around. So this is my challenge element, especially because my Saturn is in an earth planet. And that's another thing. Your challenge in life is the element that's your challenge in life, you also see it in your Saturn. So I also seek the earth element to balance me because of this. Now, here's the kicker with all of this. We tend to link up with a person who complements us because he or she corresponds with our missing element. But usually we don't find someone who embodies fully our inner masculine or feminine. And this is what drives us crazy in relationship, because we want a partner to be a replica of our inner masculine and feminine. Okay? Then there's the issue of the unhealthy inner masculine and feminine. Okay? So a man may have issues with his anima, his inner feminine. And that shows up as moodiness. He might be moaning, sulking, pompous, tyrannical, just very moody and bitchy generally. A woman's animus problem shows up as thought processes that don't penetrate through to the solution of a problem. It may show up as pessimism, depression, and just unhappiness. So as long as our inner masculine and feminine are undeveloped, we'll have a biased and distorted image of the opposite sex. It's really important for both sexes to fully develop both sides of themselves, inner masculine, inner feminine. We need to fully be in our own masculine and feminine inside to be whole. So this is something, I'm sure that we work on this for our whole life. I know I certainly work on it forever and ever. So in a state of wholeness, a healthy man can totally navigate, accept, and love the watery world of feelings and emotions. If he's healthy, he has no problem with an ocean of emotions, water, and feelings. That's a healthy man. He can navigate that feminine world. And a healthy woman can navigate the fiery world of assertiveness, power, and authority. We are attracted to the person that personifies the element that we lack and that makes us conscious of our self, of our Achilles heel, because he offers us the opportunity to get to know our element. So we've already talked about that. So basically, every relationship has 4 people in it. The man with his inner woman and the woman with her inner man. This is what Jung calls the marriage quaternio. And the ideal is to make our partner's Anima or Animus our ally. So, in the horoscope, the inner masculine and feminine shows in our relationship planets. Okay, so now I'm talking about ourselves. I already mentioned that for a woman, she's attracted to a man who's like her sun and Mars, and a man is attracted to a female who's like his moon and Venus. Now, in our own self, looking at our own psyche, our masculine planets are Sun and Mars, and our feminine planets are our Venus and Moon. The Sun and the Moon represent our own parental image, and the inner feminine is Venus, while our inner masculine is Mars. And the truth is, we actually view our parents through the lens of these planets, which are like glasses of perception. Sun is the father, Moon is the mother, Venus is the beauty, the graceful temptress or the lover. She's the princess. And Mars is the body, the hothead, the conqueror. He's the prince. Okay? So a whole man needs to not only unite his inner masculine and feminine, but he needs to also unite the Mars and the Sun, the prince and the king in himself. And a female must unite the princess and the queen, the Venus and the moon in herself. And the goal is to integrate all of these 4 planets in ourselves in harmony. So Mars as a planet forces a young man to conquer a woman. That's what Mars does. Mars is like conquering. Whereas the Sun is more mature, and it gives a man the power to take responsibility, because Sun is father, right? Now Venus is the symbol of a man's anima, his inner feminine that tempts him. That's what he's attracted to, as a woman like his Venus. And his moon is the expression of his mother. So, if he doesn't know how to unite Venus and the moon, like kind of girl and mother in himself, there'll be a disruption in his relationship life because of the tension of his inner mother and his inner beloved. Isn't this fascinating? I just find it fascinating. I hope you're not completely like dizzy in the head. For example, if a man has a strong moon and a weak Venus, he may stay faithful to his mother and avoid other women as a beloved, because he's kind of like a boy. So for a woman, Venus shows how she brings herself to the relationship as a temptress archetype, beauty, femininity, sensuality, the young woman, and the moon complements her feminine self-image with the aspect of how she expresses her motherliness. That's the mother in her. Now, another thing that's really interesting is that when we encounter a person who embodies our inner feminine or masculine, that doesn't mean that we necessarily like or embrace the person with open arms. It depends on how well that element is integrated in our horoscope, if it flows and if it fits with the other elements. For example, if a man has Venus in the planet of Leo, it means that his inner feminine is Leo, so he would be attracted to a Leo type of woman. But if only his Venus is in Leo and every other planet in his horoscope is in Virgo, he may have a problem with that one Leo fire aspect because it's so opposite to the earthy Virgo. And he might repress that Leo quality into his own shadow. And remember, whatever we repress, whatever we suppress and don't accept in ourselves, whatever we're not willing to feel, it gets projected onto people that we can't stand, or who bother us, or who experience as a rival who we have to battle. So if this person is totally in his Virgo and he rejects his own Leo, the Venus in Leo, he will reject or hate or battle with a woman who has that Leo quality until he learns to love and integrate the Leo in his own psyche. So cool. I love Jungian psychology. So healing is about taking back our projections and calming our own inner war, because it's all in our psyche. In the same vein, often the things that we love and admire in others are also our projection, because our shadow can include unacceptable judged qualities, and it also includes the magical, beautiful, wonderful qualities that we're afraid to own and that we project onto others. So we're often afraid to own our own light and beauty as much as we're afraid to own our shadow. But usually though, the themes that we suppress into our shadow and project outwards are the outlawed emotions, like abuse of power, betrayal, rage, hatred, violence, or for men it might be deep sensitivity, emotionality, neediness. That's generally societally not accepted, which is a very terrible thing because, well, I'll talk about it in a minute. So that's why I find incredible refuge in etheric healing, in doing the work of the divine feminine. Etheric healing is a form of shamanism. It's a form of soul retrieval. Like I said, I'm getting to that video. I just have so many videos to do. So like I mentioned before, my own life was changed when I learned a process called holodynamics. It's unbelievable. I'm going to tell you guys about it. So what we do first is we connect to our full potential self, our self in a higher level. We see it in a different plane, not in this earth plane, our sacred self. And then we connect to our inner feminine, inner masculine. And when I learned this process, I learned how to take my deepest, darkest emotions, my deepest insecurities, fears, terrors, rage, hatred, any emotion that gave me pain. And what you do is you find where it is in your body, and you embrace it in warm, loving light. You thank it for being there because you see that it has a higher intention for you. And then you ask it, what do you want? What do you need? In a space of love. This is what I call the space of the divine feminine. It's just pure love, acceptance. And when you embrace these demons in a space of love, when you thank them and listen to them from your heart, they will reveal that they truly just want love. Because I have done this a million times on myself with millions of different soul fragments and emotions. And every time, even if it's the worst, rage, hatred, it wants to kill the planet or whatever, underneath it, it always just wants love. It wants to be held. It wants to be embraced. So they always want love under the rage. And the interesting thing is that after I learned the holodynamics process, which I use on myself constantly because I'm so intensely emotional and I pick up so many vibrations from other people, so I need something to constantly cleanse myself. After I found that, I realize it's very similar to shamanic soul retrieval, because I've done a lot of shamanic soul retrieval as well. I love it. And it's what they use in a type of Buddhism, Goddess Buddhism, in a book called Feeding Your Demons. I wanted to show it to you. I'll show it to you next time. I'll go through the whole process in that book. It's almost the same process. So this is universal. I'm realizing this process is done in many different spiritual traditions that are really deep and go into deep Gnostic work of healing deeper shadow demons, which is really important. So when you embrace and love and give your demons what they want, what they really want and need, which is always loving and beautiful, they become sweet and pure. And it's the same with addictions, because underneath the addictions is also a desire for love. So I think that one of the most important things that humanity needs that can deeply, deeply heal the planet right now is to go into that beautiful, compassionate, feminine space. I call it the feminine space, the divine feminine, so that we can learn to embrace our demons, our pain, our painful emotions, our deepest, most violent, ugly secrets. And if we could just shower them with love deep in that space, it's beyond. This is not just physical. This is not just something we do talking. We go to hyperspace. We go to a higher space. And we ask them what they want. We give them what they want. Like I said, I'm going to do videos on this soon. And honestly, this process saved my life because I'm a really intense emotional person, and I come from a really intense, crazy background, family background with a lot of pain and suffering, a lot of darkness and violence, and I used to suffer a lot in my mind and emotional body, especially because I'm really psychically open and sensitive. But once I learned this and many other processes, it was like just, I like to stay in a state of bliss and love pretty much all the time. That's like where my thermometer is. And this is great because you can take any demon and just transform it to light. It's beautiful alchemy. So this is the reason I'm doing these videos. I just want to share this with you. I want to share the love, the light, and the knowledge. And I truly believe that we humans are crystals. We're divine crystals, and we are meant to connect to higher divine impulses, higher beauty, bliss, and love. I feel it with all my heart, and I know it. All of us are meant to be this way. We all can live in the state of incredible love if we just learn to embrace our darkest shadow and take it into light. And the whole world around us would change if we did that. So thank you so much for listening. I hope that this wasn't totally overwhelming. And I bid you aloha, and I'll see you next time.